Hello, everyone. My name is Nick Bonanno. I am a producer and the senior official of the United Wrestling Network, and we are welcoming you to this edition of The Push. Our co-host today is welcoming back to the United Wrestling Network is Alyssa Marino.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be back. Great to see you guys.
So happy to see you. Of course, our guest of honor today, the Killer Bay, Heather Monroe.
Hello. You're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Heather.
You're welcome.
And it would be a disservice to leave it at that. Of course, her personal assistant, none other than Halston Boddy.
I'm here for you. Hello.
I love it, Halston. You're looking great.
A vision.
It's a light Thursday look, you know.
Yeah.
Just a boring Thursday. Was it? So I guess. Okay. So yesterday, a video came out through the United Wrestling Network social media, highlighting Heather in a bit as a sit-down interviewer, going through her, bit of her career, at least within Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, Arizona, and our trip to China. So, I guess my first question or thought is, Heather, how did you first get booked at Hollywood?
Oh, well, I know that they were starting to revamp the women's division, and at the time I was pretty new to the scene. I had only been in about a year or so, and they kind of were just looking for girls to come in and work with Ruby. And so I had wrestled Ruby 1 billion times up until that point. So it was a pretty obvious go-to for me to come in and do that as well.
Makes sense. Working with Ruby Reyes, did you feel that I guess how's it working with Ruby Reyes as on a TV show versus working with her on the indies?
I guess there's like a.
Also, what's going on over here? Sorry. Okay. I know you're not the center of attention right now. We'll get back to you. I'm sorry.
Just adjusting my volume. Goodness.
There's definitely like a couple of different differences. Like on the indies, we're going to be able to work a little bit longer, have longer matches. There's maybe a little bit more leniency on what I get to do in a match as opposed to TV wrestling Ruby, because it ended up being more or less a squash match.
Well, I was curious too, if I might just jump in.
Please, jump in.
Yeah, because I know, Heather, you were saying about how you had a background in theater and cinema. And I was wondering just how that played into kind of how you took to the idea of studio wrestling and wrestling for TV. Just kind of how that either assisted you or impacted how you viewed studio wrestling when you started.
Yeah, I think it helped, obviously, because I kind of knew already, like from doing theater, like how you have to wait for reactions, or you have to kind of let things sink in with the audience. That in indie shows you can kind of go a little faster pace, but obviously with TV shows you need to take your time a little bit more to let things register, because you're obviously broadcasting to a bunch more people than are in our audience. So I think having like that theater background, and also when it comes to like hard cam, it's kind of like theater. You have to cheat yourself. Doing the promos and stuff were a little bit easier for me because of that as well, because I already had an idea of how that all worked.
Some of the best promos man. Whew.
Thank y'all.
You guys both blow me away.
I can't wait to yell at you again and everything in our interviews.
I've loved getting yelled at by you so many times. I've loved getting sprayed by the water bottle. Halston has dressed me up in some nice little snazzy headpieces. So it's a joy. It's a delight.
A makeover's coming. I'm telling you right now.
We are a delight. Thank you.
Alyssa,
eyebrow.
This is true. You are a delight.
Alyssa, were you in the promo there was one promo that we did where Heather was very, very upset. I'm forgetting which one. That could be many of them.
Well,
But there was one where she was so upset that she cracked her head into the monitor behind us. Were you on the call for that one? Were you holding the microphone, or was that after you left?
That was
I think I was already
one.
I think that was John.
Okay.
I think
it was John.
I don't think that was me.
Yeah.
Oh wow, God, were you? I mean, you do.
I got very flustered, and I smacked my hand on it. It didn't hurt, but it was like, oh my God, what is this? What's happening to me? Why me?
Now I'm even more mad.
Yeah, exactly.
I blame John Roberts. Done.
Exactly.
He's not here to defend himself, so let's just blame him. That's fine.
Exactly.
Certainly wasn't my fault by any means.
He'll get a rain check defending. That's what he gets.
There you go. Do you guys have like a favorite? Go ahead.
Oh. No, go ahead. It's okay.
I was gonna say, did you have like a favorite promo moment from the show, or a favorite promo that you guys were involved in?
I think that promo was one of my favorite ones we got to do, because we just got to be so goofy and just play off each other. Because Nick was just like, "Here's the idea, do what you want with it," pretty much.
Yeah, he gave me a note, and that was like, okay, just wait for this, do that, and then two-take Halston. Come on now.
Two-take Halston.
Yeah, I think with certain people you have to hold their hand a little bit more, but with characters that are more developed, like Heather and Halston, you know they just kind of need to know a couple of beats, if that. So we know that we're gonna get something entertaining regardless. So if I said, all right, this is your motivation, you're upset, and then this is where we have to end up, I trust that you guys can get there. A promo that I still like going back to watch of the two of you is actually when Halston was introduced to Heather by Jamie Iovine. And it was a nice little introduction for everybody and sets up the character of Halston Boddy. Halston, what do you remember that day when you came onto the show?
Oh, I do. It was exciting, yet it feels like it was forever ago. My God. I feel like it was like, remember 5 years ago? It was like only last year. Yeah, no, I was excited and nervous, and I mean, it was my welcome to Hollywood moment, and it felt amazing. I mean, you know, I didn't have to breathe into a paper bag or anything, but I definitely was like, the anxiety was high.
Really?
Oh yeah, no, I mask it pretty well. I mean, I know how to bottle it pretty damn well. But at the end of the day, when you've had a dream for almost 30 years, and part of that dream kind of just manifests and becomes reality, you got to be a little like, is this happening? And that was that day.
Very nice. So you must have some kind of show business background, though. I would think you've lived quite a life and several times over.
Oh, I have secrets. Yeah.
No? What can you share on this?
Well, I mean, I've done a lot of different entertainment venues, and the first one that probably broke the mold was my venture out of college into broadcasting school in the mid-90s, where I'm originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I decided to bail out of college because I was just like a turtle on his back waiting to be flipped over. I had no idea what I was doing there except taking classes, no major, no direction. And one of my earliest childhood memories of having a career goal where people are like, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a doctor, whatever. I was like, I want to be a radio DJ. And back before the internet was the internet, I was on a board where somebody was talking about this broadcast school in Detroit, Michigan called Specs Howard School of Broadcast Arts. And I hitched my wagon and moved in with this friend and went to school for 8 months at this school. And I was the first one out of my class to actually land a job in radio. And I became an on-air DJ overnight on the station I grew up listening to in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, called 94 WKTI, which no longer exists as that station. But yeah, so that was my first foray into some level of entertainment and or acting, vocal training, all those things.
One of the many lives of Halston.
There's
He
so
has
many layers.
so many stories.
Layers. We're not
I feel like I find a new one out all the time.
Woo. I got a pocket full of secrets, darlings.
I'll say, because like you have such a distinct voice that it makes a ton of sense to me that you would be in radio, and so
Yeah.
or have had that past.
I have recordings of my original demo tapes, and P.S. that was 22 years ago. I've gone down a few octaves. If you listen to it, it sounds like a squirrel. It literally sounds like a squirrely teenager who's so ramped up on like, I'm like 94 WKZR, yeah, like it's so yeah, it's high energy, and I sound like a teenager who doesn't have a direction, and it's like, yeah, who's this kid that you let on at 3 a.m? I don't know.
Oh my God.
So, yeah.
It's past
I
the
feel like
kid's
that's a lot
bedtime.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a lot of the DJs talk in those like weirdly high pitched voices as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, because in training they tell you to like talk like your normal voice, just talk as you, because a lot of people go into my favorite description was, don't get into the hot tub, and everyone's like, what? And it's like, hey, we're listening to the radio, let's talk. You feel the bubbles splashing in the sides, and yeah, like everyone wants to be smooth on radio, and they're like, don't do that.
It really does paint a picture, though. Yeah. I felt that.
I was there. I was in the hot tub.
The request for your lovers, you want to listen to some Lionel Richie? Yeah, okay,
Sure.
but not in the middle of afternoon drive. That's not probably,
That doesn't set up Mbop. That doesn't set up
Right.
Hanson, you know.
That was
Oh,
that
man.
song debuted while I was on radio.
No way.
I'm letting you
So
know.
you listen to it constantly then, I assume?
Oh yeah, every 4 hours.
Oh gosh.
It was. I mean,
Oh, my
I grew
God.
up in my 90s was the music experience of. I could tell. That's another layer of stories. Let's move on. Good lordy.
Oh my God.
I don't think I've ever told you this, Halston, but I used to do radio DJing in high school as well for a class. I did a broadcasting and cinema class that was like an elective for like college courses while I was a senior in high school. And so I had 2 radio shows that I did. And I did like it was like indie kid rock, which is so cool. I was so cool. I was so cool. And then
Are so cool.
and then I did like whatever indie like punk pop shit during that time. And then on Fridays we played rap and hip hop all day. So I had a show that was called Girly Rap, where I played all female rappers
Salt
and like
pepper.
Kanye West and like stuff like that. And I
Yeah.
played Lip Gloss by Lil Mama, like every single chance that I got.
As well you should. But I love
Yeah.
that you still, even then, like you still had the girl power mentality. I love that. And it's carried over so well
I
into
know.
every aspect, you know? Like that's fantastic.
It's kind of my thing.
I was
kind of your
23 and 24, and I feel like I hadn't had enough whiskey and cigarettes yet to make my voice sound good. So that's why. I mean, I wasn't in high school, but it sounded like I was, still like, hi.
You're listening to
Oh, my.
KGIL.
And speaking of
Oh,
girl
shoot.
power,
I was like, what is this? It just popped up.
because of girl power, during that era, I got a free screening pass from my radio station to see Spice World. I'll let you know. And I went.
That's amazing.
It was me and every 8-year-old girl in Milwaukee. It was great.
So you were in good company.
Incredible.
So I see this popped up.
Alyssa's got a question.
Alyssa Phillips
Yeah.
has a question. So what's Heather's
Yes.
favorite part about working with Halston, and what's Halston's favorite part about working with Heather? Great question.
Ooh, I think my favorite part about working with Halston is that it's kind of pushed me to be a little bit more creative with what I'm doing. And I think like I have fun on my own, but like having somebody there to play off of, that we share like similar humor, similar ideas. And I think that that's been the funnest part for me.
Yeah, I would say I would agree with all of that. And I would add that I love that Heather pushes me out of my anxiety moments when I'm not sure of something or I quit because I'm an overthinker at times. I mean, the prism of excellence comes from the root of the idea that like I see all sides. And sometimes that's a blessing and sometimes that's a curse because then I'm like, thinking of too many things and she centers me. So it's very nice balance. It's almost like a wine pairing. The cheese and wine are paired very nicely because I have a million ideas and she goes, whoop.
You're like, how about instead?
Right. She knows how to edit me.
Okay. Well, and I would say, go ahead, Nick.
Oh, I was going to ask, Heather, how do you like having a manager versus not having someone with you at ringside? That must change your style a little bit, or been able to incorporate some things.
Yeah, definitely. I think I love managers. I've always loved managers. Like when I was first starting watching wrestling, they would always have managers with like, even if it was just a worker or a wrestler that was doing it, like Lita or Trish or like Stacy Keibler, like they would be the managers. And I think that adds an extra element of fun to it. And you, like I said, you get to be more creative with what you're doing with a manager there because it's another person to have fun with you.
And boy, do we have fun.
You certainly do. I was going to say now, one of the things I love is that I feel like Halston, you kind of set things in motion most recently for the Best of 7 series with all the different stipulations. So I was curious as to, for each of you, what your favorite stipulation matches in that series were.
I liked the Falls Count Anywhere match, which I think me and Nick have talked about this as well. But the Falls Count Anywhere match was just something that I had never gotten to do before. And it really allowed for us to use a different space than we were before, obviously. I mean, I'm sorry, Halston, you went into a dumpster.
I just realized the last time we saw him was in the dumpster. Have you seen this clip, Alyssa, of Halston getting unceremoniously tossed into our trash receptacle?
Allow me to say this. I will say this. I agree that was my favorite match as well, even though Lacey Ryan did throw me into a dumpster. However, I said this out loud to my husband, and I said this just because I had to make peace with it. If wrestling never came back ever because of this pandemic, let's just say it went crazy and it got like no more wrestling ever. If that was my last moment ever in wrestling is getting thrown in a dumpster.
Chef's kiss.
Done.
Yeah.
Right.
That was my last match before everything. So I feel like that was a good one to leave off on as well.
Ooh, the drama is thick now, you know.
Yeah. I would say we touched on like backgrounds, whether they be theater or elsewhere in performing arts. I went to a theater school in outside of New York City that was basically for all the kids who couldn't afford to go to like a NYU or somewhere like that. So we were always tasked with making something out of nothing. And my professors always challenged us to use a space differently than anyone else would think to work. So a great thing that I love about Falls Count Anywhere matches is it pushes you into that realm that you're not in the ring most of the time, that you can go anywhere. There really are no limits if you really are able to, really take it to your full advantage. So you had mentioned that a little bit of that with that match, Heather. Now, is there anything unexpected when you were kind of going around to see what might happen in before earlier in the day as you were looking around to see where you might be able to go?
I don't know. I think we had a lot of ideas that we wanted to do and like unfortunately couldn't do everything that we wanted to do just because of it's TV and you can't really you have to have the cameras with you. So I think one of the most unexpected things was the crowd still chanting though too while we were like outside.
Honestly, I don't know if I've told you this story because as the referee for that, I had an earpiece in, so I can hear everything that happens in the control room, and the control room can hear commentary. So I heard the commentators calling the match because they could see it on the screen in front of them. And when Halston, you went into that dumpster, they reacted so loudly that the fans were audibly upset that something had happened and they didn't see it. They were chanting, "What just happened?" And
Oh
so
my
by the
gosh.
time you and Lacey ran back in the building holding beer bottles, ready to like duke it out, everyone was on their feet. It was sonically it was
Yeah.
gorgeous.
And I think, especially because me and Lacey have been clashing a few times before that, obviously, the crowd was really excited to see what we were doing, and that made it even better as well.
So we have another question from our fans here. Let's see if I can pull it up. Did that come through? There it is. Asks, managers are sorely underused today. How did Heather and Halston meet and decide to work together? Halston, how'd this happen?
Well, I mean, we both come from Santino Brothers, and I originally was working with Dom Kubrick, so Heather and I were in the same universe. And I'd been working for Hollywood for a year, and it was funny because I was there doing all the things you're supposed to do and show up and keep showing up and observing and helping and paying attention and following the story and just getting involved. And it was funny because I want to say like 2 months at least before Heather approached me, there were a few people buzzing me going, why aren't you on this show yet? And I was like, that's a great question. Who do I ask? Sign me up. I'm ready. Right. And so one day Heather just came bouncing over to me and she was like, you're managing me. I'm like, check. Yes. Done. It was that easy.
And I had been fighting for that for a little bit too. And I kept being told, not yet, not yet. And I was just like, I know that he works perfectly with me. I've seen him work with Dom. I've wanted a manager. He's perfect for my character. So I had asked for it for a while and I had to wait months for that to happen. So
well, do you remember what happened in story that allowed Halston to be brought into the picture?
So they wanted us to form the upper class fully before I was able to get him. And the whole point was that Jamie can't handle managing all of us. So he needs to bring somebody in specifically for me. And so he brought in one of Gwen Stefani's assistants.
Yes.
I do feel that it's not
Jamie knows Gwen Stefani truly. Yeah, he knows her truly, and so he was like, I was just with Gwen. Yeah, I was just with Gwen, and she said I can have one of her assistants. So here he is, and that was like the story. And also, I had to wait so long because they needed to form us all together in order for me to get him.
Well, also you had to wait until Gwen was ready to part with him, so you know.
True, that was the actual reason.
That too is like we know Gwen Stefani and Halston Boddy's assistant partnership goes back just a couple of years with this, but Halston's relationship to Gwen Stefani actually goes back 20 years, back to No Doubt on the radio. If you think about it, Tragic Kingdom was huge in '96, right?
Let me tell you what,
exactly.
Spider-Man was everywhere. I'm telling you,
the album was magic.
And Don't Speak was a breakup song. I'll have you know. I'm letting you know.
Oh, we know.
It was.
We know.
We know. I was curious too because a lot of the time when we speak to wrestlers, we talk about okay, like who inspired you, who were some of your favorite wrestlers growing up. I was actually curious, Halston, if you had any influences as a manager and people that I can obviously there's an ode to just in your style, but like who were some of the managers that you felt inspired by?
Oh, I mean, I have several inspirations. One of the biggest one for me was Jimmy Hart. I mean, not on the level of his character being what it is, but the fact that what I love about Jimmy Hart was no matter where Jimmy Hart was, you always had to look at him because he was like a walking billboard. He always had so much flair to his look that it was like, I mean, it took it to that level. I mean, Bobby Heenan's great, don't get me wrong, but a suit is a suit. But when you got a Jimmy Hart, custom airbrushed, I mean, that was amazing to me. Yeah. As somebody who's a costumer and a creator and something visual to look at, that was Jimmy Hart visually, took it to that level. Plus his energy level was off the charts. I definitely followed wrestlers more than I was like focused on managers.
Sure.
Because I was a wrestling fan first before I was like a managerial, like character, other thing kind of, study of the wrestling world. But for sure, early on, I remember Jimmy Hart being like, "Who is this cuckoo bananas head? What is going on?" And then later on, I gotta say, Rico was one of my favorites because what I loved about him as a gay man during Pride season, I have to step on my gay soapbox and say, Rico played that character as a gay person. I approved. That's how I knew he played it right, because there's been plenty of effeminate and gay characters that have gone through the annals of wrestling, and some of them are great and some of them are so cringeworthy. It's like, who decided this was a good idea? And so Rico for me was absolutely like, this is perfect. I can't handle how good he's doing this. And
I loved watching him too.
Oh, yeah.
He was fun.
Right. He was just fun. That's the best part. He took what I read, like interviews with Rico later on, and he was on, I think, Jericho's podcast. And I mean, it was everything I wanted to hear, where he just like got this job and got this role and he took it with stride. It's like the old Dusty Rhodes story about how everyone thought he was getting ribbed by putting the yellow and black polka dots on him. And he just went, I'm doing it. And everyone bought in. Everyone's like, oh, I'm going to dance with Dusty Rhodes now. All right. And it like made it work. And that's what I love about Rico, is that he made it work. No matter what, it just worked.
I love that attitude. That is, yeah, it's like, what you mentioned Jimmy Hart before. Did you ever work with our backstage announcer Grant Pachoco, by chance?
Yes.
I don't know if you were there yet.
I wasn't on the show.
I was like,
yet,
this would have been like right when Alyssa started too.
Right. I was working with the show, but I wasn't on the show yet.
Right. Because he is a huge Jimmy Hart fan, and he has some of his jackets even. Like,
I was gonna say he wears jackets that are similar to that a lot, and maybe it is his jacket now that I think about it.
I love it. I got Jimmy Hart, and my wishes came true. When you say about meeting your heroes, are they going to be awesome? Jimmy Hart was amazing to talk to, and I had to tell him, I was like, listen, Eat Your Heart Out, Rick Springfield is a jam. I don't care what anyone says. And he was like, oh my God, it was so much fun. I hope Rick Springfield's still not mad at me for making that song. I was like, what? And then at the end of talking to him, he like he ripped me because he was like, hey, wait a minute. I go, what? He goes, Eat Your Heart Out, Rick Springfield. I was like, oh, Jimmy. So I got a mini serenade from Jimmy because it was just, I mean, it was everything I wanted.
Yeah.
Love it. Good. So taking a sidestep from wrestling for a moment, Halston, you might be a little left out here, but the three other people in this chat are mostly plant-based. So either vegetarian, pescatarian, eat things that aren't necessarily meat.
Yes.
How did both Alyssa and Heather, how did you kind of come to that? And is that Andy who's in the background chuckling at us talking about? Am I making
So I think I started
I'm curious. I want to talk about plants.
You want to talk about eating plants? We're talking about eating plants? Okay. I think like I always had like an interest in vegetarianism, just in kind of mixing up my diet since high school. Honestly, just off and on. Through college, I would have like vegetarian days or vegan days. And then honestly, like, God, it's like 10 years ago, I think I just cut meat out. And then after I moved to LA, I started to try and go like vegan. I call it like just crappy vegan because it's one of those things where it's like
you're a bad vegan.
I'm a terrible vegan. It's like I won't be like, let me just eat this stick of butter. Like, no, I'm not that bad, but it's like I won't ask what's in the salad dressing. Like I'm not that intense where I'm like, does this salad dressing perhaps have buttermilk in it. Like, you know, I kind of just guess and try my best and try not to take it that seriously. But yeah, it's just kind of been a work in progress over like a decade for me.
I tried in high school as well, but I didn't make it very long. I went like 2 months after watching some pita videos. I was eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches all the time. I didn't really like do well at it. And then I think it's been about 4 years now, maybe 5. No, it'd be 4. 4 years ago, I was eating fast food all the time, and like after training I'd go to the Carl's Jr. by my house and I'd get a burger, and I was just like spending too much money, eating too much like crappy food. So I was like, if I don't eat meat, that'll deter me from going to fast food places as much or eating out as much. And that worked. And then it slowly turned into like, I just genuinely don't care to eat meat anymore. And also it's hard now because everywhere has plant-based stuff, and it doesn't really work anymore.
It doesn't help.
Yeah.
But like, I don't miss meat. I have nightmares about accidentally eating meat. I like had a nightmare where I was like accidentally ate some sausage, like it was like in stuff, like in cheese or something like that. And I was just like, oh no, I ate this meat. Do you guys have those dreams? Like,
I mean,
it's so
I
weird.
dreams about eating sausage, but they're different. I knew that was coming. It was too easy.
It was
I
too
know.
easy. That was a good setup.
I tried to stop myself.
I think
I'm a meat eater, so I don't know what you're all talking about. No, I
Eat plants. You see what it says? Eat plants.
eat plants.
Right. Yes. I tried being vegan, and my kidneys hurt after like 2 months. It was like 2 months, and my kidneys were like my back. Everything was like, "Hey, what are you doing to me?" And I was like, "All right, we gotta dial it back. Hold on."
Well, I think so often that's the problem, is that like we just dive in and we're not adequately prepared with other options. Like, admittedly, when I tried to do like vegan in I think I was like a senior in high school, and it was, again, I was just like, oh, like I'll eat this peanut butter and this cereal that doesn't have milk in it. You know, it's like, no, that doesn't work. And then it's like when you learn how to kind of prepare things different ways, it makes it a little bit more viable,
right.
You know? Nick,
Yeah,
how long
you
have
move
you?
off the meat alternatives. Like that was all I ate when I first went vegetarian, was just meat alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about you, Nick?
I still fall
Nick,
back
what
on the alternative often. What's that? So I started in 2013. It was my New Year's resolution that year. So I started right away. I was like a hardcore vegan for 5 years. And then after that, I kind of loosened up a little bit, right actually around the time that we went to China, Heather. Figuring that was just not going to be an option in Wenzhou. So I was like, all right, let me try being a vegetarian. And for that trip, I was, I probably had some fish sauce or something. So like I forgave myself on that. But I think that people come back. I've experienced this anytime I've kind of commiserated with a vegan, is that at some point they'll admit that if they've had cheese to me, as if we have to admit this to, like a confessional. I'm like, it's not a big deal. We can go, just keep going. It's for the,
I honestly think
right
I've done
now,
that to you, Nick, where I've been like, Nick, I have to tell you something. I had cheese on something the other day.
I need you to do some rosaries.
Oh my god. Well, I think that I feel bad about now in retrospect, Alyssa, was I feel like I sort of broke your heart when I told you about the marshmallows and Lucky Charms, that they have gelatin in them.
Mm-hmm. Dude, when I found out
like a real
that candy had gelatin in it, I was devastated. I just had no idea because I didn't pay attention.
Wait,
and
what
like,
does?
Like there's, some gummy candies.
Oh, gummy candies, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So like I actually had to start paying attention to that because I was eating in England. I think I was in England. I can't remember, but there was these like little pigs, like little pig gummy candies, and I was like, wouldn't it be funny if they have like actual pig in them? And then I was like, I'm just gonna look, because it was like at the beginning of my vegetarianism, and I looked and I was like, can't have this anymore. I was like, this is ruined, because I try not to do like beef broth or like chicken broth, even though I'm not like vegan. I try not to do like any of that stuff either, and like the gelatin and stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I have to eat cheese. I can't do it. Yeah. I'm sorry.
I'm from Wisconsin, a woman after my own heart. Listen.
About a year ago, I started doing more vegetarian stuff, and I was eating a lot. I started eating pizza again, which is a slippery slope. And milkshakes and stuff, and like I just very quickly gained a bunch of weight because I was like, all this food is delicious. So I had to like put a grasp on it, kind of rein myself in to the point where I'm like vegan-ish, I would say, which is just I guess vegetarian is the answer, but lazy vegan is also fits. Sometimes I'll say. Sometimes I'll say I'm a may contain, which is like if you look on the ingredients, it'll say may contain milk or traces of blah blah blah. So I'm like, it doesn't say does contain.
You can't live your life on may contain. Like, just go for it. It's a risk we're willing to take.
I think so, yeah. Oh my gosh.
How was the food situation in China though? Like, was it decently able to be sort of vegetarian? I know you said you might have accidentally had like a fish sauce here or there, but like, was it?
It was strange.
So, yeah.
How would you? What was your take on it, Heather?
Well, I was just gonna say they literally stopped taking us out to eat after the first day because me and Nick didn't eat meat. So they took us to this place, and he had said he was like, "I'm gonna eat dairy for this trip because it's gonna be really hard." And so they fed us like pizza and like salad, and like it was like a salad and mayonnaise. the first day we were there.
Salad and mayonnaise. It was super weird. It was I call it an Italian themed restaurant. It was not an Italian restaurant.
Yeah. And so, but then I think they had planned to be taking us out to eat, but because it was so hard for them to like feed us, they stopped. We had to I ate McDonald's every day and I eat fish. So I was able to eat the fish fillets, but Nick couldn't eat anything from that except for fries.
No, I don't remember what I was eating. Yeah. And I don't know if I could eat fries even because they have like natural flavoring from a beef source. It said where the source was, so I couldn't eat it. I did drink a bunch of Coca-Cola, so it's just sugar.
So you had energy. You had energy for the historic broadcast.
Oh, did you not know
it was a lot of salads.
Coca-Cola is made with beef broth? I mean, you know.
I figured that's how we got the caramel color. But we got a comment from the United Wrestling Network that says Colt Cabana loves the food in China. And that is the biggest lie I've ever read.
Oh.
He got taken out. He got taken out for like beef tongue and stuff. And he did not like that.
Yeah.
Ooh. Really?
Yeah, so they had to show them all the
That's when
delicacies.
they didn't take us.
Yeah,
they knew better than to invite you to that.
Yeah, I would be. Yeah, I love adventurous food, like thing like that, because I've been to the Philippines and I got fed stuff that I'm like, what is this? It's amazing. So I understand that level of like. And then when I was in Japan, I got all sorts of delicacies, and I was like, everyone else in the room was like, I'm not eating that. I'm like, I'll try it. Go ahead. Ain't gonna, listen.
You're so adventurous. What's the most adventurous like food you've ever had, or what's kind of the most interesting delicacy you've tried?
I would say durian fruit from in the Philippines. That fruit that smells like a dumpster fire when you're like around it, but when you eat it, it's like it's so weird because they don't even let it in like closed buildings out there. You have to sell it like some wide open market with a breeze because it literally smells like, the way I can describe it is walking up like as if you've ever worked in a restaurant or you've had to take the trash out to a dumpster where things are wet and that wet dumpster juice smell from behind. That's when you're walking up, it smells like that in the air and you're like, wow. But then when they cut it, they just chop it up and then they give you these gloves and there's these giant like seeds in the middle. And it's like this sort of like, it looks like vanilla pudding. It's weird. And then you eat it and it's so bizarre because you smell what's around you, which is this garbage smell. But when you taste it, it's like this creamy custard with no garbage flavor. And it's just like, how is this happening? It's like one of those, it's almost like one of those like trick pills where you can take something and like, you take the trick pill and you put in like sugar in your mouth and it tastes like salt, like that kind of thing. It plays a total trick on your brain because you think it's going to taste like this garbage pile and it suddenly is like almost like a creme brulee without the vanilla in it.
Ooh, that's like magic.
It's so weird, but I did it, and it's on that list of like 25 weird, foods you got to try before you die, kind of thing. Like, I did it raw in Davao, Philippines. It was great.
That's pretty dope.
Mm-hmm.
I've never even heard of
I
that.
could be misremembering this, but did you have a food truck at one point, or is that a thing?
So close to having a food truck. All right. The layer is being opened here on United Wrestling Network. I was on the
Well, we've kind of touched on the many lives you've had. So say it again. I'm sorry.
I was on the Great Food Truck Race season 3, where I was, prior to that, starting a cookie business, which turned into a cookie food truck, which then turned into a breakfast truck serving waffles. And during that time, the Great Food Truck Race producers, and one of them was like signing, like there was development deals going on, and like they were talking to me like to start my own show, to like watch this guy start a food truck. He has all dreams, no dollars. And so then the Food Truck Race put out this thing like, season 3, have you always wanted to start a food truck? Do you have dreams of being an entrepreneur of your own? And I talked to the producer. I was like, is this what I should be doing? And he's like, and so I signed up, and they brought me in for some auditions I had a couple friends, and that is a 3-hour story. But at the end of the day, it became a waffle truck called Papa Waffle, and as in POP-A-waffle. And me and 2 other friends got to 3rd place. We made it through the entire season and just missed the finale. And it was, I got to say, in a nutshell, it was the most exciting and adventurous summer road trip I've ever had in my life. It changed the absolute course of my career directions, because I basically just gave up retail and customer service and all these things to just take a giant leap into the unknown and hope it worked. And again, it's like the equivalent of climbing the ladder and get your hand on the belt and almost unlatching it before you fall off the ladder. That's how it felt. It actually, at the end of the day, it almost ruined me as a human being, because everything is there. It's almost there. Your dreams are there, and they're almost this. And when it all ended, I always describe it like, if you put sand in your hand and let it, like if you hold it like this, it stays in your hand. But if you do this, it falls through your fingers real fast. That's how it all fell apart. But here I am to live and talk about it.
Yeah.
You rebuilt. And now look at you.
Told.
Living that boyhood dream.
And I can still serve them. I still have food truck dreams. Don't worry. If everything I do at wrestling falls apart and I can't do it, like I'm banished from Wrestling Island somehow, which will never happen. But if it did, I definitely still have food truck dreams to like have a food truck that would be called Soak Up the Booze, and I would just sit outside of bars, and instead of having people drive to Denny's, they could just soak up the booze with some like pancakes on a stick kind of thing, you know.
Heck
Wow.
Yeah. I love that idea.
Smart.
That's
very smart.
It's already copyrighted. Don't take it. No, I'm kidding.
So quite an entrepreneurial attitude. That sounds like.
And what resilience!
Speaking of what resilience, then. Speaking of the entrepreneurship, that kind of spirit. Right now, we just got a comment from founder of Bermuda and current United Wrestling Network Tag Team Champion Adrian Quest says, "Sup."
It was.
How do you pronounce it? How's it going, Adrian? Thanks for joining us.
You got a flat tire.
Heather, you had mentioned. Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, Heather. Thanks, dear. They mentioned earlier about you used to play a lot of like female rap and things like that. I noticed that on the indies you come out to an MIA song. Is that right? So,
yeah.
How did you? Is that when you first, I guess, kind of fell into MIA? It was during that time when you were playing those songs on the. There?
Yeah, because I can't remember actually when the oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of it. Her like very first
Paper Planes?
song. Paper Planes, yes.
Yeah.
Paper Planes was kind of during that time too. So I had started listening to her because of that. And I actually didn't want to use the song that I use, Bad Girls, because I was like, I'm a good guy. I can't use Bad Girls. So I had a different song originally called Girls by, oh my gosh, I know the name of the person and I can't. Now it's like completely blanking and I'm going to look it up right now. But, oh my gosh, I'm so mad at myself for not remembering.
Whenever I hear the song Girls, the first thing I think of is the Beastie Boys, Girls.
Another way with girls.
It's by another hip hop artist, another female hip hop artist, and it starts with an S. Oh my gosh, I'm so mad at myself. Santa Gold, yes, Santa Gold. So I used Girls by Santa Gold, and then Laura, when I started tag teaming with Laura, she was like, we have to use Bad Girls as our song, and then I just was like, this is what I've wanted to use from the very start, so I just switched to that. And some places still have my old music, so I've come out to it like recently, and I was like, I haven't used it since I just started. I was like, I don't even know how to like move around to this now because I'm so used to like, doing my entrance with that song.
That's too funny.
Shoot.
Wait, I have a question for the group. So obviously, Heather, you got to pick an entrance song. So like for Nick, if you were a wrestler, if you were competing, what would your entrance song be? And Halston, how about for yourself?
Oh my. I usually do it based on what character I'm going with. I've made up so many characters.
I mean, you did have a really strong.
Idea.
Go ahead.
No, I'm curious what you're going to say.
You had a strong rivalry with referee Jeremy Marcus. So, I mean, if you were being like senior referee Nick Bonanno, what would his music be?
Oh my! I'm gonna have to think about that for a moment, man.
Okay, I'm sorry.
In the meantime, Halston, do you have an answer for that? What your entrance music? Sorry, I know there's a message on the screen about.
Well, I'll address the message on the screen. It says, "I watched that season of Food Truck. The Sausage Guys won. Boo them." My comment is, no, don't boo them. Eat their food. It's amazing. Their restaurant's called Seoul Sausage, as in Seoul, Korea, and it's in Los Angeles. They have a bunch of locations. It's amazing food. Get the rice balls. You'll thank me. That being said, I do have two ideas. My two themes, if I had to use like commercial music that was already made on my own, I would definitely use Flawless by The Ones. There's a newer version of that was redone by George Michael, but the original was called, the band was called The Ones. And funny enough, director Billy Trask knows somebody who's actually in that group. And I'm like, we need to talk about how to get the license for that. I want that song. And then the other one I thought of is
Billy can make that happen.
I gotta get him on the horn and be like, let's move this, because that song, I mean, it's so good. Anyway, the other one I thought of was another one called it's The Horns by DJ Catch. And if you actually go to my Twitter and you watch my sizzle reel, that song is the music I used for that. So there's two answers.
What about you, Alyssa?
Boy, okay.
Have you got one, Nick?
I was actually very lucky. No. Some of the times when I've done commentary, I've actually gotten an entrance. So I've always used stuff by Sleigh Bells because I love the energy of a lot of their songs. So I've come out to Kids by Sleigh Bells, which is super high energy, super fun. But I had an idea that if I ever wrestled, which I have not, and I probably never will. There's a song called Baby by Spank Rock. That would be my entrance music if I wrestled.
I'm going to look into that.
Look,
I'm writing this
treat
down.
yourself. It's a great tune.
Hold on.
I'll send you guys the song. I'll send it to you.
Okay. I'm like writing it down. I'm like, listen.
It's great.
Nick, you got anything yet?
So I'm a big fan of like gimmick music. So like when I first got into wrestling, at least working on shows about 10 years ago, and every indie wrestler was like, let's play a hardcore song. I'm here. I'm intense. And then a wrestler who I was friendly with at the time, his name is Alex Reynolds. He's in the Dark Order now. His gimmick at the time was that he was an aristocrat. And so he came out to an Andrea Bocelli song. So Time to Say Goodbye. And so in the midst of all these really hardcore songs, he came out with a butler with nearly an opera song playing. So I've always liked things that tell the story of who the character is before they get to the ring.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, man, what's it called? So like I mentioned earlier, usually when I develop a character, even if it never sees the light of day, I'll usually think of a song for that. And when I first moved to California, and I was starting to roll around a little bit at the United Wrestling Network wrestling school, trying to brush up on my training from New York. I would get there in the evenings, and the building next to the school, there'd always be from the alley like a waft of cannabis smoke. And so I thought, what would the person smoking, what would they be thinking about? What would they be doing? And I thought that maybe they'd be a high flyer, and they would come out to Paper Planes. For whatever reason, I was stuck in my head that day. So I thought that. So I pictured a person kind of walk into the ring, holding their arms out like an airplane, being real chill, and then just kind of rolling around and doing some kind of, maybe a backflip off the top rope, but just not caring about it. I don't have a name for that character. But more recently than that, I was on, oh man, I'm forgetting the name of it. JWC, Jack Wrestling Comedy, where Alyssa's rival, Alyssa, I guess the two Alyssas.
The other Alyssa.
Exists. And so I was on there for an appearance as a referee, and they asked me for entrance music for that. And I chose the Little Rascals theme. So, so just like, it's just a, an instrumental, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like if you didn't know it, you wouldn't know it. But for whatever reason, I felt like that was appropriate for that time. And I felt very strongly about that because that's something that speaks to who I am as a person. And that's kind of vague, but thank you, Alyssa, saying hell yeah to all that. But if you want to get it.
I picture Turtle Nick coming out to with some like opera music or something.
Or like the theme from what was it on SNL, the Sprockets?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so when we were in Arizona, Alyssa, I don't know if you know this story, but there was a couple of months in Arizona where Ryan Morals took over control of the show from producer Peter Avalon. And part of the thing was that he made all the referees wear turtlenecks because he wore turtlenecks.
Yep.
And so we looked like the people from that, Sprockets, and we took photos and made videos of that as well.
Beautiful.
But, I guess one more thing about entrance music in terms of snapshots of Nick throughout his life is when the summer after I graduated high school, I played the song Troublemaker by Weezer on a loop, which is basically just like a fun little I'm a troublemaker, what am I going to get into kind of silliness. But there's that.
Not referee Nick Banana. Not a troublemaker.
Not Nick Banana. No, I'm very serious. If I'm going to make trouble, it's going to be with Jeremy Marcus.
Seriously.
So yeah.
There can only be one.
There can only be one.
Of course. Amazing. But yeah, sorry.
I was curious.
Some kind of.
Are we all right?
No, go ahead. Sorry, I'm with the stream.
Oh, okay. I was curious too. I wanted to go back to the episode of The Push. Heather, you referred to yourself as the Queen of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. I just want to know what that title means to you.
It means that I've conquered and dominated the entire division, and I'm at the top of the mountain. And no matter who steps in the ring with me, they'll fall, just like the rest of them, including you, Lacey Ryan. I hope you're watching, Lacey Ryan.
But I love it too, because like I loved what you were chatting about on the episode of The Push, and you said that the United Wrestling Network gave you a platform, and I kind of love what you're doing with the platform, so like what do you feel like is yours? And I honestly, this question for both of you, like, what do you feel like is part of your role to kind of build and maintain an inclusive environment?
Yeah, I think especially because of what I've been able to do with the women's division and kind of making them have to step up, like having the United Wrestling Network have to step up their game to meet where I am and where I want the women to be. I think that that's given a lot more opportunities to women on the show. And obviously, like you see it in the segments that we do, the audience loves the things that we've been doing. They love like Sandra Moon, they love Lacey, they love me, and they love like watching what we're doing in our stories. And I think before there wasn't a lot of opportunity for the women, and we kind of forced the hand to give us a little bit more opportunity.
I love it. I love what you guys are doing. I love it. All hail the queen. All hail it.
I couldn't agree more. All hail that queen. Come on now.
Yeah. That's it. So as we're getting down here, what is something that both Heather and you too, Alyssa, that you're looking forward to doing once the United Wrestling Network gets back in with new events and new TV programs? What's something that you're looking to do for the future?
Well, I'm looking forward to finishing the Best of 7 series with Lacey. And I'm looking forward to just getting the chance. Yeah, I know. Well, and just getting the chance to perform again in front of everybody.
Good. And Halston?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back and performing and definitely giving the folks something to look at. I mean, come on. But at the same time, it's, you know, hey, you know, I've always said, listen, if you're going to be in front of a camera, give them something, put on a show. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the new challenges ahead, and you know, continuing to push Heather in any direction that she needs, and being the support system for, I mean, you know, anybody, but Heather, of course, you know, being the queen, I gotta do my part.
Very good. Any final words, Alyssa?
I was gonna say, I'm just excited to eat cereal in person with people again, because right now I've been doing Let's Get Cereal virtually, so I'm excited to actually just be able to sit down with people again and interact with people face to face, and interact with, you know, everyone throughout the United Wrestling Network. So
excellent.
Definitely excited for that.
Well, we're surely looking forward to seeing all of your beautiful faces again in person, and yeah, can't wait to get that out on our programming. So for everyone watching, everyone listening, thank you for joining us, and a shout out to everyone who networks with United. Take care.